I was cutting vegetables for dinner when my mother-in-law walked in, took the knife, and threw it in the sink. "You think you belong in this kitchen?" she hissed. "You'll never be part of this family." My husband just kept scrolling on his phone. I didn't say a word as she tossed my dinner in the trash. But that weekend, when she returned from her trip, what she found in the dining room made her drop her keys. We live in Milwaukee. I've been here my whole life. Ethan and I met at a campus mixer when I was 20. I was studying nursing, he was working on his pre-law requirements. He had this quiet, confident way about him that made me feel safe. We dated 5 years before getting married. I thought we had a solid foundation. I really believed we had a future built on mutual respect. But what I didn't want to see, was how much space his mother still took up in his life. Her name is Barbara. Even saying it out loud makes my stomach turn now. From the beginning, she never hid how she felt about me. She'd smile and say, "It's good Ethan has someone keeping him fed," like I was a live-in maid. She talked over me at family dinners, corrected me in front of guests, made passive comments like, "You'll learn how we do things eventually." I told myself she'd come around. That's what people always say. She's just protective, or give her time. So I did. I gave her time. 8 years of time. We bought a small 2-bedroom house after we got married. Nothing fancy, but I loved it. Ethan said it was ours, that we'd build our life here. But when his dad died a year later, he gave Barbara a key for emergencies. She started using it like she owned the place. She'd show up without calling. Sometimes I'd be in the bathroom, come out in a towel, and she'd be in the kitchen washing fruit like it was her house. I tried setting boundaries, but Ethan always made excuses. "She's just lonely," he'd say. "She's still grieving." But it never stopped. She treated me like a guest in my own home. One time I came home from a shift, my feet aching, my back shot, and found she had reorganized my pantry. She left a sticky note that said, "This will help you find things faster." I wanted to scream, but I said nothing. Just smiled when Ethan said, "She means well." She didn't. She never did. Then came that Tuesday. I'd worked a double shift. I was tired, but Ethan said he'd had a rough day too, so I offered to make his favorite, stuffed peppers. I was cutting vegetables, still in my scrubs, when the door opened. No knock. No warning. Just her walking in like it was her name on the mortgage. She stared at me, then at the food. "What are you making?" she said, in that voice like everything already annoyed her. "Stuffed peppers," I said. "For Ethan?" I nodded. She walked right up to me. I didn't even flinch. I was so used to her breathing down my neck. She grabbed the knife out of my hand and tossed it into the sink. Then she said it. "You think you belong in this kitchen? You'll never be part of this family." I couldn't speak. I just stood there. Then she took her hand and swept the entire cutting board into the trash. All of it. Hours of prep. Food I bought. Gone. I looked at Ethan. He was sitting on the couch, phone in hand. I waited for him to say something. He didn't even look up. She turned and left like nothing had happened. He just sat there. That moment was the death of something inside me. Not love. Not yet. But respect. That was the moment I knew. If I wanted to keep living like I mattered, I had to stop waiting for Ethan to stand up for me. She went away that weekend. Some church retreat she did every few months. Friday to Sunday. As soon as her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work. Quietly. Calmly. I spent the weekend making changes. Nothing illegal. Nothing cruel. Just things that made a statement. Sunday came. Ethan and I were sitting in the living room. He was on his phone again. She opened the door, keys jingling like always. Then she saw it. She dropped her keys when her eyes landed on the dining room. I didn't speak when she dropped her keys. Didn't move. I just watched. She stared at the dining room table like it had betrayed her. Let me explain what I did. First, I took down the massive family portrait she had given us as a wedding gift, one with her, Ethan, his father, and Ethan's siblings. I'd always hated it. She placed it in our dining room like a shrine to her version of family, even though I wasn't in it. I replaced it with a new canvas, one I had printed at a local shop, of just me, Ethan, and our dog. A recent photo from a weekend trip she hadn't been invited to. Then, I changed the place settings. For 8 years, she brought over her own dinnerware, some old, dusty china she said had been in the family for generations. She refused to eat off anything else. I donated it. All of it.
Gone.
In its place, I put down a sleek, modern set. My style, not hers. But the centerpiece was the real message. In the middle of the table, I placed a large glass jar. Inside were small folded notes. I labeled it, House Rules and Boundaries. I knew she'd read every one. Things like, no unannounced visits. No keys to our home without permission. Respect the woman of the house. Or, don't come in. Each note was handwritten by me, calm and precise.
No anger.
Just truth. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just stood there, mouth slightly open, keys still on the floor. Finally, she turned to Ethan. "What is this?" she asked, voice sharp. He looked up from his phone, then at me. I didn't break eye contact with him. For once, I wanted him to feel how quiet my anger had become. Not loud, not dramatic. Just final. He said nothing. That silence? That was all I needed to hear. Barbara started pacing. "You let her throw away my china? You let her remove my family portrait? You're really letting her do this to our home?" It was that word again, our. As if she still believed she had a place here. I finally spoke.
No, Barbara.
"This is my home. You don't live here. You never did." She whipped around. "Excuse me?" I stood up, steady. "The only reason you've been allowed to treat me like a stranger in my own house is because I let you. That's over now." She looked at Ethan, waiting for him to jump in. He still said nothing. So she did what toxic people always do. When they lose control, she tried to play the victim. "You're pushing me out," she said. "After everything I've done. After I gave up everything for this family. I'm your mother, Ethan." He looked up finally. And what he said shocked me almost as much as what I'd done. "Then act like it," he said quietly. That shut her up. She stormed out without another word. The keys stayed on the floor. But the war didn't end there. Later that night, Ethan got a text from his sister, Nicole. I saw his face change when he read it. "She's telling the family I'm cutting her off," he said. "That you're turning me against her. That you've been plotting this." I laughed, short and bitter. "Of course she is." Then came the calls. From his aunts. From cousins. From old friends of the family who barely knew me but suddenly had opinions. "She's your mother, Ethan. You can't let your wife drive her away. You're destroying this family." And every time someone said that, I felt myself harden a little more. Because no one asked what she had done to me. Not one person asked how many years I'd swallowed my voice just to keep the peace. Barbara wasn't done. Not even close. By Monday, I found out she had already taken a copy of the house key to a hardware store. Made 3 duplicates. One for herself. One for Nicole. And one, I found out later, for Ethan's uncle, who lived 20 minutes away. That's when I realized this wasn't over. This wasn't just a clash over dinner plates or a passive-aggressive comment in the kitchen. This was a war for control. And I was done playing defense. By midweek, the locks were changed. I didn't ask Ethan. I just hired someone and had it done while he was at work. When he came home and tried his old key, it didn't work. He knocked, confused, holding takeout in his hand. When I opened the door, he looked at me and said, "You changed the locks?" I didn't flinch. "Yes." He paused, looked down, then stepped inside. He didn't fight me on it. Just set the food down and said nothing. But Barbara wasn't done, not by a long shot. The next weekend, I came home from the store and found our mailbox stuffed with manila envelopes. 5 of them. Each one had copies of printed emails, text screenshots, photos, things that made it look like I had been spying on Barbara, tracking her movements, even threatening her. It was absurd. All of it out of context, twisted. One message was a text I had sent Ethan weeks before, If she keeps showing up here uninvited, I swear I'm going to lose it. Barbara had underlined it in red and written in shaky handwriting. Proof of threats. Another page was a screenshot of our Amazon orders. She circled a book I had ordered on boundary setting in families. Wrote, mental manipulation. She mailed these packages to Ethan's law firm, to his uncle, and to Nicole, trying to paint me as dangerous, unstable, like I was gaslighting her. And the worst part? One envelope was sent to my work. I'm a nurse. The hospital has strict codes of conduct. One of the supervisors pulled me aside and said, "We got something disturbing in the mail." I don't believe it, but do you know a Barbara L? I nodded. She looked at me for a long moment. Handle it. Quietly. That day, I sat in my car during lunch, staring out at the parking lot, hands shaking. She was trying to destroy my job, not just my marriage. I went home early. Ethan was already there. I walked straight into the living room, held up one of the envelopes, and said, "She sent this to the hospital." He stood up. "What?" "She's trying to make me lose my job, Ethan." He opened the envelope, flipped through the pages, his face going pale. "I didn't know she had these," he said. "She doesn't have anything," I said. "She's lying. But you standing there acting surprised means nothing to me anymore. You knew who she was. You've always known." That night, I packed a bag. Not to leave, but to stay with a friend across town for a few days.
Just to breathe. Just to think.
As I left, Ethan said, "You're blowing this up." I turned back and looked him in the eye.
No, Ethan.
She lit the match. "I'm just not going to burn alone." While I was gone, Barbara filed a false report claiming she feared for her safety, that I had threatened to harm her if she came near her son. She didn't get a restraining order, thank God, but she tried. It backfired, because I'd already gone to a lawyer. Not to sue her yet, but to document everything. Every text, every voice message, every envelope. I showed them all. The lawyer asked, "Do you want to press charges for harassment?" I didn't answer.
Not then.
Because something bigger was forming in my mind. Something more permanent than a court hearing. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Ethan too. He'd watched her dig at me for years.
And he let it happen.
Every step of the way. And that's when I decided. If Barbara wanted a war, I'd give her one. But the real twist? It wouldn't be me standing alone on the battlefield. I was going to make sure she took Ethan down with her. I stayed away for a full week. Not because I was afraid, because I needed clarity. I needed space from the lies, the gaslighting, and the years of swallowing every insult for the sake of peace. I wanted to feel what it was like to not walk on eggshells in my own home. During that week, I met with the lawyer again. I documented everything. I drafted a cease and desist letter for Barbara. Formal, legal, unmistakable. I sent it through a courier, requiring a signature. She refused to sign it. I knew she would. Didn't matter. The next step was already in motion. I went back home Saturday morning. Ethan was there, sitting at the dining table, silent. He looked at me like he didn't recognize me anymore. "Where were you?" he asked. "I needed space," I said. "And now I'm back to get my house in order." He tried to act like nothing had changed, like we could go back. But I wasn't interested in talking. I had come back for two things. One, my name was now on the property deed. We had added it after we married, but I hadn't realized how important that would be until now. Two, and I had just hired a locksmith to change the locks again, this time with a full security system and no master keys handed out. I handed Ethan a folder. Inside were the printed screenshots of Barbara's harassment, the cease and desist, and a legal warning that if she set foot on our property again, I would file for a protective order. I included a draft of the police report. Not filed, yet. He flipped through it slowly. Then I dropped the final page on top. It was a separation agreement. Pre-divorce. I had spoken to a family law attorney. I wasn't filing yet. But I needed to make a statement. Louder than any scream. Sharper than any insult. "I'm not staying married to someone who lets their mother ruin my life," I said. "You've had 8 years to stand up. You never did." He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just nodded. It hit him right then what it feels like when someone stops caring. When someone chooses peace over staying. I moved out 2 weeks later. The house went up for sale 2 months after that. I used my half of the equity to move across town and buy a small condo. It was quiet.
Mine.
No one had a key but me. Barbara tried to show up one more time at my job. She marched into the hospital lobby, demanding to speak to the dangerous girl ruining her family. Security escorted her out in under 5 minutes. That was the last time I saw her in person. But the real revenge? It came 6 months later. Ethan called me, voice small. She used my credit card. Maxed it out. 20 grand. Said it was for family emergencies. I didn't even know she had access. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. You gave her your login, I said. You always gave her everything. He was quiet. Then I added, now you know how it feels. I hung up. He emailed me once after that, asking if we could meet just to talk. I never replied. The pain Barbara caused didn't just crack our marriage, it showed me how much I'd let myself be erased. I had spent years being silent, so Ethan wouldn't have to choose. But he did choose. Every time he stayed quiet, he chose her. So I chose me. And the day I closed the door on both of them, that was the day I finally felt like I did belong in my own kitchen.